All right, okay. We have Duncan, we have Josh, we have Jay up there. So welcome to the Town of Richmond Water and Sewer Commission, March 17th, 2025. Public comments, anybody? Bart?
I just make one as, not necessarily a member of the commission, but as a resident of Tilden Avenue, it's illustrative of the commitment of staff and contractors.
Duncan was just saying he can't hear us.
No, that was old.
Oh, okay, sorry, go ahead.
That people show up for a leak late in the day and then work well into the night in the following morning to repair leaks. So, appreciate the staff. I'll also point out for anybody who expressed concern about leaking pipes that supply line is slated for replacement. It's one of our older ones now.
Right.
And this is a pattern I've seen before in other lines over time. That as they get to past their end of, shelf life, that they start spraying leaks, which are pretty expensive to repair, but there's not a whole lot of choice.
Right.
Anyway, thanks to staff.
Yeah, no, I second that, right? Jay, anybody? Okay,
No, I have nothing.
moving right along. Additions, deletions, or modifications to the agenda? I don't think so.
Don't have anything?
Okay. Right, first up, approval of minutes. We'll start with March 3rd, 2025. Do I have a motion?
Morgan Spard, motion to approve the minutes of March 3rd, 2025.
Mr. Chairman, I will second that motion.
Thank you. Have a second. Any discussion? No discussion. Calling for a vote. Please state your name and your vote.
Bard, aye.
Jay, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passed. And the motion for approval of minutes from March the 10th.
This is Bart, so moved, Morgan.
Jay, I will second that.
Okay, any discussion? No further discussion, calling for a vote.
Bard, aye.
Jay, aye.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. All right, first up, is Steve gonna join us?
I just texted him. He's usually Johnny on the spot, but I'm not sure what's holding him up to
He
that.
might be watching the water coming over the bridge, no.
Is it coming over the bridge now?
No.
Okay, I was gonna say, it was
I'm
coming down all day. He even gave me a mid-morning update to say, hey, that water you were looking at earlier this morning has come down. So no, I think we're out of the woods on that for today.
Okay. Yeah.
A minor heart attack there, Morgan.
I was gonna say, I know how to get Josh's adrenaline up.
Yeah, I think we're good. I don't know where he is. Maybe something came up, but
Okay,
we can soldier on with some purchase orders.
well, that's okay, we could, do you have information on?
Well,
the-
we have purchase orders still,
Okay, I'm sorry.
right? Or where did you want to go to?
No, you're absolutely right. I don't know why I skipped right over that, went to the minutes. So first we have two purchase orders. Purchase order number 5232 in the amount of 78,508 for payment to Hoyt Tanner. Would anybody like to make a motion for that purchase order?
What's the total dollar amount?
78,508.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve purchase order 5232 to Oil Tanner, and Associates for the amount of $78,508
Is Bart second that?
for the flood mitigation study pump station enforcement.
Okay. Bart seconds that. Any discussion? This is yes, coming up pretty quick too, isn't it? All right. We've been over this a few times, so no further discussion. Please state your name and how you vote.
Bard, aye.
Jay, aye.
Morgan, aye. Purchase order approved. Second purchase order 4919 for $12,021.12 for RF wastewater planning line. All right, so is this an annual payment?
Yeah, this one goes back, gosh, I think to like 2015 or 16 for East Main Street project.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Motion to approve this one, 4919, not to exceed 12021 and 12 cents.
Okay,
Mr. Chairman, I will second the motion.
all right, we have a second. Any further discussion? No further discussion, calling for a vote, please state your name and how you vote.
Bart, aye.
Jane,
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. We're approving that.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the warrants as presented.
Ms. Bart, I will second that.
Okay, discussion? No discussion, please state your name and how you vote.
Bart, aye.
Jane, I.
Morgan, aye. Motion passes. All right,
Hello, Steve.
just in time, wow. You watching the water go down?
Sure.
Yes. Okay, first up, water data for February. And Steve, would you like to lead that?
Sure. Wait for Josh to
Bring it
throw
up.
it up there and let's take a look at it.
Good view or make it a little smaller? Should I get everything in there?
What?
I was just trying to get a good view so you could read it
That's not bad.
and get the whole thing in.
The fluoride, we've been a little high on, but that's our number. If you look at the number that we get from our test weekly, you know, we're right on track. We're just a tad bit high, but I will tell you that the state has told us we do not have to test fluoride every week now. We can go to twice a month. Yeah.
And this has been 4 times a month.
Yeah, since the issue arose, they have asked us to test 4 times, you know, every week. And we've been doing that. And they said, look, you guys know what you're doing. Your numbers are been good enough. We can go to twice a month.
Okay, good. That's good news. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, it saves us $40 a month, but it's also, you know, two trips into Williston and so,
I
yeah.
think it's great that they know that we're doing a good job and they trust us. to
I
do
mean,
it.
it shows that they're comfortable with what we're doing.
They're paying attention, so that.
Yeah, we have to give them those numbers every month and you know, the guy's name is Dustin Jorgensen. And he said, hey, you guys can cut back to twice a month.
Right.
So that's been really good. We're still struggling with the chlorine numbers. I will say after the water main break, we anticipated having problems. So we bumped it up a little higher. It ended up coming out right where we needed it to be and everything was good. The pump that we have is an LMI pump, and I talked to Josh about this a little bit. It's a diaphragm pump, so it sucks and pushes, and it doses the exact same dose all the time. We've been having some issues with it. I can't tell you how old it is. When I tried to buy a rebuild kit for it, they say that model doesn't exist. That being said, there are newer and better types of pumps out there. And so we're looking into maybe going to a peristaltic pump, which is basically a tube and a roller. And it you know, the tube fills and the roller pushes the same dose every time through. The thing about the peristaltic pumps, they don't lose prime like these. There's a lot of check valves and stuff, little tiny balls, like the size of a ball bearing. I mean, a BB ball bearing. And if you have one little problem, it's a nightmare to try to trace it and find out where it is. So there are these other pumps that have come about. The peristaltic pumps were used in medicine for pumping blood and stuff.
Yeah.
So they've adapted them to this. It is, what the engineers want us to switch to in the wastewater upgrade for the wastewater plant. So I'm looking into finding out how much a new peristaltic pump the size we need would be. There is a company out there that's willing to give us one to try
Mhm.
the right size. If we like it, we try it for 90 days. If we like it, we buy it. If we don't like it, we put it in a box and send it back. And that's one of the better companies out there from what I ask around. Nate Fredericks, our operator, has he has some experience with the peristaltic pumps. He uses them in places where he doesn't have to go every day because they're super reliable.
Well, that's great to hear.
So we're still struggling with the chlorine. We were able to keep the chlorine numbers up after the water main break, and that gave us our boil water notice out in 24 hours, which was good. But we struggle with it. And so I'm at the point where try something new. And
Do you have any sense what the price point is?
I don't, and that's what I wanted. I told Josh, I really want to get the price of the LMI diaphragm pumps. They're tried and true. They are the backbone of water and wastewater for 30 years. But that doesn't mean that something new that has come along isn't better. And what I hear about these, a rebuild kit for a diaphragm pump is like $480. On a peristaltic pump, you just have to replace the tube, and that's like $50.
Yeah.
Lower maintenance as well.
Yeah.
Simpler mechanism.
Simpler mechanism. They everything I've read on them, they tend not to cavitate. They don't need the check valves and stuff. They just work. So we're looking at doing something different there and seeing.
I'm glad you're always exploring options. You've been, this is just a momentary aside. Before you came to work for the treatment plant, you didn't have a background in water and sewer, right?
No.
And you've been there 3.5 years?
Yeah, roughly.
It's amazing how your depth of knowledge on this stuff.
Well, I gave Josh a tour this morning. It's just, maybe it's because I come from a background where I was able to try a lot of different things and, do the research, try it. If it works, don't get stuck in a rut because that's what you've been doing for 40 years. There are people out there smarter who make the better mousetraps, and sometimes you need a better mousetrap.
Well, even just the grate that you were showing me again this morning in the well, the grate that keeps the stuff out of the influent pumps.
Oh,
the
sure.
well.
Mhm.
Like you said, there was a picture from like 20 years ago where it was in.
I
and for some reason
found
it's
a
out.
picture, went through some pictures.
Yeah, so it's like
Originally was a grate, right, like we
Yeah.
built and put in there in that plant. And that's how it was run. There's a garbage can down there where you can see that they cleaned off and put it in the garbage can and brought the garbage can up the stairs once a week or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, we're back to that, but I showed Josh the bucket that we throw all the stuff that comes down through the balls and the screwdrivers and the rocks and, stuff, huh?
Screwdriver.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Stuff that would have gone through our influent pump and we're catching it now.
And you were even saying this morning that now the influent pump runs less and at higher velocity, so the rags that do come through shoot right through with no problem.
Instead of, so we went to a fill and draw system. So it fills to like 8 feet, which sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. And then it draws it back down to 5 feet. And before what it was doing was the pump was running at a slower speed and it was just maintaining. So you had the wet well would be, you know, was where your height was kept. And, you know, sometimes it would fill up and sometimes it would draw down. What we went to was what they call a draw fill method, where the pump shuts off and fills up. And then it turns on at a higher speed and draws back down to five feet. And what that does, instead of the rags just slowly going through the impeller and getting caught, the velocity forces them through and they don't get caught and they make it over to the headworks grit screen.
Which sounds more like sump pump. It's not going slowly all the time. It like fills up and then it goes and then it drops.
Right, I mean, essentially, it was, Phil Laramie recommended that we do it, and once we did it, I mean, we used to have to clean the influent pump about once a week. It was always getting plugged with rags,
Well, yeah,
and
you should know the
now,
balls of
I bet you it's been over 6 months, and the last time we pulled it,
Yeah.
there wasn't any rags in it. We just pulled it.
Now, these are the first pumps that stuff.
Those are the ones down in the hole, yeah,
Oh, there, yeah.
yeah, so,
And you're still getting flushable wipes, which are not.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. It'll go away.
But they're going through easier now.
Well, they're going through
Or
the
they're getting
pumps
caught by
and
the
they're
grit.
getting caught in the grit screen where they were designed to get caught.
So it's still a task, but a much easier task. It strikes me this, like maybe every other bill, we should send out a reminder, please don't, maybe send photos.
It's something like,
This is what your disposable diapers look like, right?
We'd rather not.
New York City's estimated, there was something that was like 14 tractor trailer work loads of flushable wipes a day that they pull out of the system.
Wow.
That's incredible.
It is interesting, is it, the mindset of like
I mean, it's on a
Trash can
bigger
here.
scale, but
toilet here.
Well, they say flushable.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's it.
and they
there's no
do,
place
I'll tell you what, they don't break up.
Yeah.
No.
I
Not,
mean, somebody should invent one that decomposes better.
not biodegradable. but-
Right.
Yeah.
So, for the most part, our water numbers have been doing really well. We're looking at new things there for making it better, and yeah,
So I have an idea,
Yeah.
like for your chlorine thing, like you're saying, this thing fills up and then it puts it into the system. Why not the old, have you ever seen these, like the rain things, like here's the bird up here?
oh,
The
yeah.
water trickle down and it goes like that.
What, those
Pretty
floppy
cheap, right?
birds?
Yeah, right, it gets filled up and then it just
That
drops.
didn't work out so well in The Simpsons.
Oh,
They
it
tried
did?
that.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yeah, no,
No, okay.
Alright.
We don't need a nuclear plant meltdown here in Richmond.
the point of the pumps, you know, whether it's a peristaltic or a piston pump or the diaphragm pumps is a measured dose. So you calculate what your concentration is and you can set the pump. And you, I mean, basically leave it. You don't have to worry about it.
Plus or minus milliliters and not liters, right?
Yeah,
Great.
it's basically, we use less than a gallon a day of chlorine.
Wow,
Really?
So that's
that's not a lot. is it?
15%.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, you know, you're not talking a lot.
Right. Okay, well, it's pretty good
I'm fine.
report, especially
Yeah.
since the state says, no, just send us reports twice a month now.
Yeah, no, we felt that we would, you know, we felt that that was a pat on the back for us, that
Yeah, it is.
we're doing things right, and they're like, yep, you're off the naughty list.
Out of curiosity, do you have a sense of where we rank in terms of other plants around the state? Are we is the state saying we're one of the gold star plants?
I don't think they do that.
I didn't know if they.
It's more.
I'll tell you right now that the gold star plant for water is Champlain Water District.
Okay,
They have 2 chemists And that is all they do is monitor their chlorine and fluoride levels in the water, 24 hours a day.
Now, is that Burlington or Shelburne or?
Yeah.
Well, it's Champlain, which supplies, they
A
supply
lot of-
Shelburne, Essex, Jericho, I mean, Champlain Water District is the biggest supplier of water. South Burlington gets their water from them. Their plants down on, well, down past,
Main Street or?
yeah, it's on the end, the Humane Society.
Yeah.
If you go past
Oh,
there,
where that big tank is.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's Champlain Water District.
Okay.
And that's one of their tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, nonetheless, if they're, you know,
But so to give you an idea, if you graphed our chlorine and fluoride levels, you would get this. I mean, it's just what it is for us. Theirs is a 7.
Mm.
And it is every time.
well,
So, you know, we shoot to get there, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there are other towns that I have seen where their, you know, their graph is got a great big wide,
Belt on it, yeah.
You're
compared
usually,
to us.
you're
But
usually within the margin of error.
we try to be, I
Unless
mean,
they're in the acceptable
it's
range.
been
unless there's
frustrating a little
pump issue
bit,
or
and
something.
that's why we're looking
Yeah.
at doing something different with
And
the
that's why
pumps.
there's a range, because they know that everybody has 2 chemists.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
They might even have a third now. I don't know. I mean, I just know when we were talking with them,
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, we have 2 chemists, and that's all they do is every like 20 minutes they test,
Mm.
make sure everything is right.
There's an economy of scale there, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hmm.
their chlorine line is probably inch. And their tank of chlorine is probably 10,000 gallons.
Wow.
Don't want to leak there, do they? Okay, moving right along. Thank you, Steve, for that. The pledge, consideration of signing the pledge to support USDA rural development for water and environmental programs. I did mine
Okay.
today. It was pretty. I want to go back there. It looks like a nice website.
Yeah, so this came in sort of, I think, late last
Yeah, it came
week.
in through rural water.
Yeah, I figured since it's through rural water, it's probably something to support, and wanted to bring it to the commission to get the commission's thoughts on it. It's really about USDA rural water funding, so I asked if it applied to CWSRF or DWSRF funding, which we've gotten a lot of in the past. This particular pledge does not apply to that, although they might have some concerns coming on the road about those programs. But I guess there's something specific going on with USDA rural water development that they're looking for some signatures for. I don't know if we've ever gotten one of these. I know we explored one for the gateway. I don't even know if we applied, because I think we determined pretty quickly we didn't meet the specifications with like income levels and some of the things they were looking for. But I think it's probably a good thing just to sign to help show some support of federal funding.
Took me all of about 1 minute, maybe.
Yeah.
Morning, this is Bart. I'd like to move to sign the pledge to support USDA rural development's water and environmental programs.
this is Jay, I will second that.
Okay, further discussion?
You know, one thing I'll say, you probably know more about this than I do. There are parts of the South where the wastewater treatment is frankly laughable. There are places where literally pipes go into a swamp, and that's where it goes.
You should have seen the Chattahoochee River outside of Atlanta 20 years ago. Or 30 years ago when I was a student.
My daughter
Big
has
sign
lived
saying, "Do
around,
not swim."
yeah, Raleigh, Durham, and when the water table is high, there is something right off the highway where there's like a leach field and it gets overwhelmed and smells like raw sewage routinely whenever there's a high water table.
But that's the way they've always done it.
But even worse than that, there are water systems in the South that are, you know, calling them a water system are really even, I mean,
Yeah.
far and few between.
So water quality, wastewater treatment is kind of a first world standard, and we don't always achieve it in our first world country.
Well, you know, almost 50% of the people who are working for the Peace Corps, if there still is one by the, you know, it's, who knows, are on clean water projects.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, it's a global issue and it, we might not have bragging rights too much longer if it's not, if we don't consider the effect of that, so. Before I forget, calling for a vote,
Hard eye.
Jay and I.
Morgan, aye, motion passes, thank you. No, I think this is as good, it's a big issue, I really one similar
yeah,
incident, I was doing on a project in England in the eighties, late eighties, and they had rivers of massive 30-inch sewer lines jumping into the river, and then just downstream people fishing. And they were angry because we were doing a survey to, you know, create a clean system.
Well, here's another example, the Tiber, which is the river that flows through Rome.
Right,
The one you see is not the actual Tiber. The actual Tiber is a sewer and they paved over it because it was so bad. And they created an artificial water course so they still have a river.
right. Wow,
I had no idea.
I mean, yeah,
can you imagine?
I took Latin in high school. I should know these things.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, go back 100 years, people were still emptying their chamber pots in the streets.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it is amazing, the technology in 100 years.
Yes.
I
It
mean,
really is.
And
it
massive
was only in the
amount-
seventies when pipes were run them out the side of the house.
And that's, you know, we used to use lead for literally everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
so
Water meters.
Water meters, okay, moving right along. Give us an update on water meters.
we have 309 installed out of 327.
Wow.
We are,
18 away, huh?
by the end of March, we will have we're hoping to have all the residential ones done. There will just be some large ones that we have to make arrangements with. Because the new meter isn't fit the old one, or like at Harrington's, they asked me to wait until after their Easter rush before we change it, and I was like, yeah, that's, you know, totally fine. So, but we'll be done this project well before July 1st, which is a year. We started a year ago. And I think the guys have done a really great job.
Mhm.
And you know, they did it, knocked it out. And I mean, I really don't think that we spent, what was it, $140,000
Like
that
that.
we estimated on this project when we put it out to bid.
And they've probably discovered a lot about houses that.
Yeah.
You know, I feel the whole thing has been good because we now have. MSK has a visual of every house that we've been in, every account now. They have a visual of the pipe coming in. And that's been loaded up to their website. We now know exactly what every pipe is in this town. We still have those ones that we don't know from the main out to the curb stop. But we know what everybody's service line coming into their basement is.
You know, and once the portal's available to everybody, people are gonna really like the ability to monitor for leaks.
People already like it because I notify people almost
Well, yeah, you told us
daily.
last week about that.
Anytime I find a leak or a problem, I notify people. Getting better about judging the usage now.
Mhm.
And you know, like I can tell exactly when Stone Corral is drawn
Sure.
beer.
Flashing their tanks, yeah.
Yeah,
You'll have a little thing that says, like monthly tips, like turn the hot water off when your teenagers, they're taking showers and. You know, yeah.
I see you have a teenager now. You're
Yeah.
you're one of usually says
Well,
fine.
yeah, during the water break, there was a very irate mother that came up when we were digging. Who said, I have two stinky teenage daughters that need to take a shower, and I said, I am sorry, ma'am, but we're not gonna have this fixed for about an hour and a half,
Oh, I feel so good.
but,
Too much
Times would be
information. I know.
um. So, yeah, the water meters, the, everything about that whole system, I really love. It is just, I think it's gonna be so much better for the town in the long run.
Yeah.
And compiling the information for the engineers doing the wastewater pump station design and stuff. I've had to use the old numbers because they wanted to go back to a date. It would be so easy just to forward them the whole thing and let them, then they would have hourly, I mean, they could literally have hourly use for what the flows for a particular day were going into that pump station. Whereas now we're taking a quarterly average and we're dividing it out to find a daily average. But, essentially they could say, oh, Stone Corral dumped their tank, on Tuesday at such and such a time, and that was a high flow for the pump. And, it would just be so much better for their design if we could do that, but it's we're about a year behind that, but.
Get there.
This is a question related. First, I'm sorry to see the closure of both Big Spruce and Hatchet.
Yeah.
And I just, for the first time here, was starting to think if we see the ripple effect of that in water use, do we see? I don't know if that's noticeable in the scale that we have.
They are those meters were in relatively early. I haven't ever seen them on my high use list, so I haven't really had to worry. We did have a long discussion with Gabe today about pricing. He was a little concerned about how his water was being priced until I showed him in black and white that it was actually the cheapest of all the rates. So
Is residential stuff or?
no, it was just and like I'm talking with Josh, he's probably putting together some numbers for either sale.
But yeah, because he's trying to keep those as restaurants.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, those two haven't come up as high users. I mean,
Yeah, I wonder, I was talking to somebody that's a commercial user and he came up again about how expensive the rates are. And I just sort of looked at them and didn't say anything, but I wonder if we're gonna end up going through the same discussion again, it's what it is. But I mean,
People are entitled to have their opinions and no one wants to pay any more for anything than they have to.
I just, as not that I was happy about it. I remember in Middlebury, Otter Creek Brewing, there's commercial people rate was 10 times higher than residential.
Oh,
Yeah,
And that's why Walker's pumpkin ale is no longer being made.
I'm sorry, I know.
That was good stuff.
Yeah, listen, we used real pumpkins, organic at the time, expensive stuff.
Do you guys ever try that?
the Wall original pumpkin? I don't
Yeah.
remember.
yeah, that wasn't bad stuff.
Yeah.
That
When did it stop getting made?
Well, probably stopped making the pumpkin ale before 2010.
Okay, yeah, we got into pumpkin ales in the last, I don't know, 10 years or so. We got,
You know how to make pumpkin ale, don't you?
no,
Just add pumpkin spice. That's all.
that's it. Okay. Maybe that's how someone, we found a couple in New Hampshire that we really liked,
Yes.
but yeah,
Fun.
they're a good time.
Hard.
I think the rate structure is a challenge because our scale.
Yeah.
Right.
And we've put a lot of investments in after deferred maintenance for many years, and we're gonna face this with the wastewater treatment plant bond when that comes up. I mean, and fundamentally, it seems to me the problem is, or the challenge is, that infrastructure is expensive, whether it's bridges, roads, water, wastewater. And there seems to be a general belief that somebody else somewhere should be paying for it, whether it's federal grants or commercial thinks residential thinks commercial. And the fundamental challenge is we're in this together. And the only thing worse than paying for water and wastewater is not paying for water and wastewater, because what do you do if you don't have water?
I can tell you when people don't have water, you get a lot of phone calls in
Yeah.
a very short time period.
Well, I keep saying, not that we could go back to a system, but it's a lot easier for a house with a septic and a well than a commercial to try to do the same thing.
I've got septic in the way. When I first moved here, I was terrified because it was a really dry year or two, and there were people around here whose wells were drying up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what my fallback plan would be if that happened, but my well is always produced.
And when you have to replace your septic system, it's a substantial amount of money. And so there are these trade-offs. You can either do it on your own, and then I lived in a house once where the well collapsed, so you gotta get a guy out there and drill the well again. It was like 400 feet. It was not inexpensive to drill a new well.
So,
No, I wouldn't imagine.
I mean, some of the things that coming down the road, in the future, we need to have the pumps at the water house, the well pump and the pump in the clear well. We need to have them assessed. The last assessment that I found that was done was in 97. I can't find anything about what was done after that. Brad says he doesn't ever remember anything being done. He's been around for 10 years.
I think it's a safe assumption it wasn't done.
Those things need to be done because downtime on those we need, we have a buffer, but it's only a 10-day buffer. And if you've got to replace a whole, a pump, so those are things that are coming down. The other thing that am in the process right now, the control panel in the well house for the water system. If you open it up, it looks like a fishing line gone awry. I mean, the wires run everywhere. There's nothing. And I think it was part of the problem when we had our mission system set up. I think there were some mistakes made because the wires aren't numbered nice. And so I've asked Dan Pratt, who has done a lot of the panels at the wastewater plant, to give us an estimate on what it would cost to give us a really good panel in there, that when anybody opens it, they can follow the wire diagrams and know what each piece does. And because it literally, you open that up and the wires just kind of pop
Oh,
out.
that's
It's very,
like an old
labeling
farm.
that in color
Yeah.
code. Labeling that in color coding, that would be a great idea.
Yeah, I mean, in Dan's panels, every wire is labeled at the end and the beginning. And, there's a wire diagram.
Are they all the same color, or does he done color coded?
It depends. He does, if they're energized, they're usually red. And then of course grounds are green and then commons are white. But I mean, his panels are, for some reason, Dan still likes working with us. He has sold his company. He still works for his company that's owned by somebody else. But when I call him and ask him, hey, do you want to do this or this? He's like, sure.
Mark?
So I think this is relevant to our upcoming budget discussion.
Yeah.
I think we should be looking forward, this kind of what we've done more in the town budget historically than the water sewer budget. What are the projects coming up in our sort of ballpark cost estimates, and what year do we think we're going to do them? So an example, if we're gonna do the panel next year, put a price tag on that and decide, are we gonna pay for that from rates or from reserves?
No, and that's
Or
kind of what
pump work.
I
Yeah.
kind of, really, when I got into this job, I was treading water, trying to stay alive. Now I'm trying to really make things better. And pick projects and things that, I don't wanna come to the water house one morning and say, oh shit, that pump is dead,
No, you're being very proactive and you're documenting what you're doing.
yeah,
Yeah, okay.
so.
No, agreed, Barton. That's a good comment. So, okay, water, that's all.
I mean, if you want, we could go break something to give you a challenge.
No. Scratch that. from
We're
the
up
minute.
to it.
Scratch that from the minute, please.
Put some fish in the tank.
Yeah.
No,
I don't even about that whole thing.
Okay, last up, superintendent's report.
the plant's running pretty good. The dewatering screw, the distribution screw, I talked to you guys about that. Fournier gave us a number. It was like $5,800 and then add 2,000 to that. Giros, I got the information to them. They got their guy got their information back. They can make us a brand new one delivered to our plant for $4,500. I talked to Josh about it and we ordered it.
Okay.
It's so worn out that
Oh, that's right.
it just, I mean, it gets there and then it just doesn't go anywhere. It needs to be
I forgot, is that made out of brass or?
no, it's steel. It's cold rolled steel. It's like a big screw. And it goes across the top of the tractor trailer. The incline one brings it up and drops it into it. And right where it drops it into it, it has worn down so small that it's kind of not even a screw anymore. It's kind of just there.
A shaft.
Yeah.
A shaft.
Thank you.
That erosion's incredible. How long has it been in there for?
20 years.
Yeah. It's a lot of sand, right?
It's not a lot in a given day, but 20 years.
But
Yeah.
you think about that
No.
steel, and
Oh,
it's a
yeah,
fairly
yeah,
soft
yeah.
substance coming in there, but
Right.
wow, that's impressive.
Like
Yeah.
particulates, right?
Yeah, and the water, I guess there's everything. It's wild.
Ajuros found the company that makes the flights. They ordered them. They'll have them to them. They'll weld them together on one of their jigs. And we'll put our plate from our screw, the end plate, which is good. They'll weld that on it. We'll slide it back in and be ready to go.
Great.
So, other than that, right now, we're draining, well, tomorrow we're gonna drain the clarifier. We had one clarifier we took down last year because it had a bunch of problems, took us a long time to get it fixed. The other clarifier now we're gonna drain. There's a chain that we know needs to be changed. We already bought one. We're gonna change that. Hopefully, there's no other problems. Put some grease to the bearings, check everything out. And then bring it back online. Soon as that's done, we're gonna drain the big aeration tank. We're gonna drain it down to the top of the diffusers. We're gonna run the diffusers. We know there's a bunch that needed to be fixed. We're gonna fix those. And then hopefully we'll have it all ready to go. And we're gonna bring that one back online sometime in May. And then we're gonna drain the other one and clean it and try to do that, a spring and fall switch on those tanks. It made a big difference in the way the plant has run. Switching to that tank last fall, the plant has run really good all winter. And we think that was a big difference.
Because it helps the bacteria.
It helps all the microorganisms.
Okay.
Because they were hurting at one point.
Well, we saw a tremendous amount of more of a wide range and more healthy than we ever saw before once we started the new one. there was just so much sediment and stuff in that other tank. And now we're gonna switch over. Hopefully this one is not a lot and we'll just run it through a little at a time through the plant. And you know, be ready to switch over again in the fall. That's the plan anyway.
So we did have a moment, I think what Jay's remembering, didn't we have a time last year where there was like,
Yeah, we've
something
had,
like, will this new process help protect us against these
well,
types of spikes?
it will,
There was like a bad load of sludge or something.
well, we had a bad load of
Which
sludge.
poisoned the,
Yeah,
Yeah, what we're finding is that the microorganisms were right teetering on the what they call old sludge stage. And you want it to be on what they call a young sludge stage. And that your ideal is to keep it young. Ours was old and there was nothing we could do about it because there was just so much old grit and sludge in the bottom of the aeration tank. You couldn't get that fresh sludge growth that you were looking for. And once we switched to this empty tank and started it, yeah, it's really been simple to operate.
you know, go ahead, pardon.
It's almost like that's how it was designed to operate.
Well, I think it was.
You know, the average customer of Richmond Water and Sewer, doesn't really appreciate the majesty that is sludge. We should do an MMC TV 5-minute like little.
Yeah.
presentation.
The importance of
Of
young
sludge.
sludge, young sludge.
I'll tell you,
sounds like
the,
a 80s rock band.
the best part of my day and Brad's and Mike's is that 5 or 10 minutes that we're looking in the microscope and trying to pick out the microbiology. Because you'll see stuff you've never seen before. And it's like, you know, like today we saw a mite. But it wasn't, normally a mite looks like a mite. This was a little tiny one. And we ended up going online and finding out, well, it was a baby mite.
Did you name it?
No.
Talk about young sludge, I mean, baby
but,
mites.
yeah.
Anything.
Great. So it is really interesting, the microbiology part.
Have you ever seen any mighty mite?
No,
You know, David's sitting right behind you going, I have missed this so much.
I know, guys.
Well, so just thinking about that, I don't want to take a lot of time. More curiosity is it sounds like there's a change either in things like nutrients or pH in the new sediments that are, I mean, it's changing the sort of.
It's just easier to operate the plant if you're on that verge of new sludge all the time than it is if you're trying to play catch up on. So if you kill new sludge, it'll regrow back quicker. If you kill old sludge, you kind of have to wash it all out of the plant and start again.
Okay.
And it's hard to do when all you got is, you know, 3 feet of old sludge sitting in the bottom of an aeration tank.
Wow. Okay. All right. Anything else for us? Sounds good.
Well, I think we covered a lot of things.
Yeah, we did.
There really is nothing more exciting than sludge.
Yes,
Just saying.
it is. I just learned something new. Old sludge, new sludge.
You will say that when our PFAS test comes back.
I actually think.
Did you hear they put floss on the PFAS band lip?
Yep, I did.
Loss. Very-
Yeah, dental floss has a high percentage of PFAS in it.
Alright.
Tell me
Of course
that.
it does.
Well,
I've been good about every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
You
truth.
have to back.
One of these, right?
Your Gore-Tex,
Wax.
your Gore-Tex stuff, that's all
My
PFAS.
ski stuff, yeah, I know.
So it would seem to me, it actually would be sort of interesting to do like a video, especially when you look through the microscope and look at this.
Brad,
like-
I should have Brad put some pictures together. He is really good about taking his phone and through the microscope taking pictures.
That would actually be kind of cool. I
And
agree.
I'll have him, he's got
Yeah.
some really good and pictures and stuff.
Maybe get like a high school biology class to go down there and like do a little video. I think it would be sort of cool.
Yeah,
I mean, maybe they would.
I mean, like I said, we really get excited that part of the day when we sit down and look into the microscope and see how things are growing, because the plant's a living thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's our job to make sure it's young and
Healthy.
continuously growing.
I'm starting to think we should be charging you for working there.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be paying us.
Yeah,
You're having too much fun.
Okay, good.
I'll tell you what, 3:30 on last Monday morning, I was not having fun.
Yeah, that,
Well, if nothing else, items for agendas.
So, one quick thing I will say, the reason we ended up on a boil water for the water main break was we could not shut Tilden Avenue water line off.
So there's backflow into the other parts of the system.
Well, no, there's, so there are two valves up on Jericho Road. And there was a valve on Tilden, what is that, the path?
Yeah. But
There was a,
The old Jericho.
yeah, there was a valve on that line. When they did the Jericho Road project,
Mhm.
they pulled that valve out in anticipation of doing the Tilden Avenue project.
Should we put the valve back?
Well, we are when we do the Tilden Avenue project.
for that gets
But-
approved.
Both Brad and I assumed the two valves that were in the Jericho Road, one above the Tilden path and one below it. Brad's like, if we shut the top one off and we shut the bottom one off, it'll shut the water off to Tilden. Well, we shut the bottom one off. He went to shut the top one off. And what that did was it took all of the back pressure going against the well that was pumping at that time and should have kept the system pressurized. And ended up dropping all the pressure in the system. So it wasn't that we lost water, we had plenty of water, it was that we lost pressure. In trying to shut the valves. So that was the reason. I mean,
Okay.
it was a necessity because we couldn't do the water main break without getting rid of the water, but it was unanticipated when it happened.
So it seems like there's a lesson here. Don't take the valve out thinking you're gonna do the new one in like any minute now, any day.
Yeah.
That's coming. And then years go by, right?
Yeah,
Fine.
Okay, so next meeting. In April.
Update on meters.
We'll have
Yeah.
budget and rates by then too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Sale
so
rates. Yeah.
Budget rates and any,
Yeah.
sort of project costs, I think we should contemplate
Welcome new
those.
member of the board, whoever it may
Okay.
be.
Remember? Yeah.
I think at that time, we should also start talking about the total price for the upgrade.
I think we need to,
I think we
I think we
need,
need a meeting with Hoyle Tanner.
huh?
I think we need to meet with Hoyle Tanner to come back. to
Well,
that.
I think she's
to
ready for
talk?
that.
Okay, let's connect with her. If
Um,
she can be ready, because I think we need her
yeah.
here for that.
But- But I think we need to start that ball rolling because,
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
things are different now, right?
well, yeah, I mean,
it's gonna be expensive.
yeah.
Let's connect with her and make sure, because if you would like to meet with her, she's, because we
Yeah,
need, we
I'll
need,
get
we need
contact
Kirsten
with her.
here for that, I think.
Last time I talked with her, she was.
Okay.
She had one project left to clear off her plate and then she was pretty free.
Awesome.
So, which made me think that she was ready to get rolling with our project.
2 weeks.
And
Okay,
then just a thought, if we do end up having Hoyle Tanner and we have a larger budget discussion, keep in the back of your mind, maybe a 5:30 start.
Yeah.
As we get closer to that, if it looks like it's filling up, I'll email the commission to see if that's possible.
Okay.
But just keep it on your schedule, pencil in.
That's for the April.
April 7th one, yeah, because if we're gonna try to get through a lot of budget and a lot of other like 20-year study,
Yeah.
that could get
I
long.
agree.
So I just want to have time.
Okay.
But I'll keep you informed.
Do we know who our new? select
We
board
will
member-
know at the select board meeting. All right,
thank
on that note.
Motion to adjourn?
This Bard motion to adjourn.
I will second that.
All right, please state your name and your vote.
Bard, aye.
Say hi.
Morgan, I motion adjourned.